So today we're going to talk even deeper about the newer technologies, and these are all around really enforcing secure email transport. And in Microsoft 365, you can actually send a rule that says, hey, outbound, all my email outbound needs to go encrypted. If the receiving source doesn't approve encrypted email, then don't send it. And I've done that for a number of customers, and most of the time your outbound email is going to flow just fine. 99% of the email servers in the world are going to accept encrypted email. And if they aren't, then you probably don't want to be sending it. Somebody's running something that's not set up properly, and you don't want to send them email. Inbound, it's a little harder. There's a lot more mail coming in that's not encrypted. And a lot of that's because of spam and phishing and there's a lot more noise inbound. And so it's harder to enforce it. But Microsoft is starting to build out some technologies that allow them to enforce email encryption and start to define that for your company. First, we're going to talk about is MTA-STS. It's a mouthful. Again, nerd alert, we're going to get deeper here. That stands for Mail Transfer Agent Strict Transport Security. And this is an email standard that allows domain owners to enforce TLS encryption for SMTP connections between mail servers. So it allows you to ensure you have secure email transmission by preventing downgrade and man-in-the-middle attacks for the SMTP traffic. In other words, you're saying, doesn't matter what happens between me and you, you're not allowed to accept email from me unless it is encrypted. And so it forces the server on the other end to know that email from you is required to be encrypted with a valid TLS connection. And if it doesn't, then fail it and don't accept that email. So the way for you to really enforce your email security, this is all managed through a single DNS text record. And so you create a _MTA-STS.domain.com text record. Again, it's always DNS. We go back to that. And it'll let you set a policy on this front. That then lets you there's all kinds of rules about the syntax. You kind of say, these are the rules for how I want to send these secure emails. And Microsoft has started rolling out support for this. And so it's available for you to enable on your tenant now. So it's a newer technology. And so it's not just Microsoft's technology. It is actually an industry standard. And so Microsoft allows you to enable this. And outbound emails are capable of being sent that way currently. And you can go ahead and create your policies. In order to do inbound policies, I think you have to move to the new Microsoft MX records as well. And they do also call out that you can't use an MX record-based mail filter. So that's important to go run through. There is some requirements for how you build out the syntax of this, and there's some tools online that can help you drive that. And you can also do it on a number of other tools. We also use Easy DMARC because I can give you reporting on some of this. But a lot of the reporting actually relies on the second technology we're going to talk about today, which is TLS-RPT. And TLS-RPT is a reporting tool, stands for SMTP TLS, which is Transport Layer Security Reporting. TLS is the name of the encryption that's used for most websites and email flow. It's the encryption algorithm or standard for how we send secure content back and forth. The current version is TLS 1.3. And TLS-RPT or TLS reporting is a reporting mechanism that lets domain owners receive reports about email delivery issues related to MTA-STS and start TLS failures. So it allows you to define where you'd like the reporting to go when MTA-STS fails. So as a domain owner, you can say, hey, I'd like to start using MTA-STS, which is telling people that my outbound email is going to be sent securely. And so you should trust it if it comes encrypted and you trust the SMTP connection and it comes securely, then you know it's from me. And if that fails, if you get an email from me that doesn't pass that, I'd like you to send reporting to my service. It sends a JSON report that includes details about delivery attempts, failures, why they failed, that sort of thing. We prefer using a tool like Easy DMARC for that reporting. And the great thing is it really gives you a lot more detail about what's going on with your email on the outbound perspective. And what I really like about using a tool like Easy DMARC with your DMARC reporting and your TLS-RPT reporting is you start to get a lot of really good data about where your email is failing. Are you sending through multiple services? Where is it failing? Where isn't it failing? And that can be really helpful for the IT department, because there are times that email failure is kind of a mystery. We don't always know. We hear that somebody's not getting our email. We have to kind of dig for details. The more reporting we can build in with the TLS-RPT reporting and the DMARC reporting that Easy DMARC and other tools like it support, it really allows us to drive better reporting, allow you to troubleshoot any email flow issues you have. And in this case, it'll also give you additional data about your MTA-STS deployment. Is your email flowing properly and getting secured? Because it's something you want to be careful with. With MTA-STS, we can set levels of enforcement. So we don't have to go immediately to, hey, if it's not encrypted, don't accept it. We can go in kind of a reporting mode and make sure that we have it dialed in before we dial in the reporting, very similar to how we do that with DMARC. And so you really want that reporting to understand, if I turn on MTA-STS enforcement, how am I going to break something? Is that going to break my MailChimp email? Or do I have a scenario where I'm sending email that's not compliant and nobody will be able to receive those emails after I set this flag? So it's really important that you go ahead and build out the reporting at the same time. A third tool that kind of ties in and brings these two together, and it's also a DNS record. All three of these rely on DNS, and that is DANE for DNSSEC. So DANE is DNS-based authentication of name entries. So we talked about DNSSEC earlier. DNSSEC is where you take your domain name records for your business and for your company domain, and you go to your registrar and your name servers, and you turn on DNS security. And what that does is it tells that server to publish some records that say, hey, for DNS records from this domain, I am not only the domain name manager, but I will sign those records. So if you get a record about my domain, you can go check to see if they're valid based on the cryptographic signature. Really important thing for us to start doing. Wasn't really available or required 5 years ago, but now it's becoming really critical to get it done. Pretty easy to set up on a Cloudflare or a GoDaddy. It's a checkbox, sometimes a small fee, but it's a really valuable thing. It makes your domain more secure, and it allows variables to be put in place around things like MTA-STS, because DANE, DNS-based authentication of named entries, adds a layer on top of MTA-STS where those emails and those TLS encryptions, you can now make sure that the TLS encryption uses a validated and signed TLS certificate. So you're not only making the email encrypted, you're not only making sure it's valid encryption, but then you're validating who can encrypt your email. These are the trusted certificates for my email flow by binding those to the domain names and using the certificate authority ecosystem to validate them. Pretty easy to build out the DNSSEC. You need to make sure you have a couple records published, and you need to have DNSSEC enabled on your domain. This gives you some real great, another layer of just confidence and security on your domain. Now, one of the things required for this, in order for this to work on the inbound, as opposed to outbound, so for people emailing you, is that Microsoft's default mail servers they've been using for the last 12 years on Microsoft 365 are on the protection.outlook.com domain. So if you've ever set up Microsoft, when you go set up the MX record, you're setting up your domain.protection.outlook.com. Microsoft is slowly deprecating those and is coming out with a new set of domain names that are mx.microsoft. There's no .com. The top level domain in these new MX records is .microsoft, mx.microsoft. So you have your domain-com, a randomized letter number string, .mx.microsoft.com, and we can walk you through getting that enabled. You got to run a PowerShell command. Microsoft will spit out your new MX record. You go publish that on your DNS records. And once you turn that on, it enables people to send you email over MTA-STS and to do DANE, where you can then validate inbound email.